this recording?
It's recording, buddies.
No way. Maybe we should go introduce ourselves.
Okay, go ahead, Michael. What do you have to say?
Do we say our full name? I don't want to try and
You
kill me.
set the precedent.
Just
My name is Michael. I'm not gonna say my last name because I don't want anybody to kill me yet. Today, okay, this is my friend Nate.
all right. Yeah, I don't know if this is ever gonna happen again. So Chandra's been replaced by Michael. We'll see how that rolls. This is Nate. Obviously, this is the GR8 podcast. Is the star of the show. Clearly, I know what I'm doing here. I'm not exactly too sure about these other two clowns.
He's been begging all week for a
Just
podcast.
wait till I get like
All week for a podcast. You don't know what to say. Go ahead, Sean. Introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Sean Chambers, making my second showing out at the Nate the Great podcast. Just ready to, completely assert my dominance and intelligence once again, because I did win the last one.
All right,
so.
well,
You did. That is
Pause
not
real quick.
true.
We'll see what. We'll see. Shut up!
Shut up! Shut up! This will not be anywhere else where you just gotta just interject.
my bad. I'll never.
You
say
allow
anything
people to talk.
We'll see what the podcast holds.
Golly. What, Michael?
Since we're doing last names now, I feel like I gotta introduce myself again.
Oh my gosh!
My name is Michael Tarantolo. This is my first day on this podcast. This is my first day on any podcast ever. I'm a dear friend of Sean Chambers and kind of a friend of Nate. Nate Hayden over here.
Please.
I've known Sean since high school. I've known Nate since high school.
Okay, we don't need it. Okay. So we were like trying to discuss what kind of podcast topics that we should talk about. Last week or last time it was me, Sean, and Chandra. It came off like pretty easy. Like we knew exactly what we were going to talk about NBA, but we don't know exactly what to talk about now. I don't care what we talk about, but thought we might as well set that precedent because we're going to take a lot more time to figure out what we want to talk about.
I think a few things are in common that we could all bring something to the plate. Movies, you guys, they're definitely
There's a lot of movies. A lot of TV shows we've all watched recently.
Please let him finish the sentence. That like we talk for like a long.
Oh my
period of time,
bad.
and the
Is
next
this
person
like Jeopardy
talk.
where you have to like we have to press a button before we speak?
Basically,
No, it's just don't talk over your
yeah. Just
crewmates.
My bad.
Like Michael interjected TV, and then also sports. I think we could get back into. Michael has been seemingly super passionate about sports recently. Michael, I'd love to hear your NFL and NBA teams and why.
So I'm
Why?
actually this is a crazy thing I'm going through right now because it's like part of me wants to be a Cowboys fan because it was the first NFL team I ever saw in person.
So are the Commanders. Sorry.
We don't like the Commanders, okay? I'm also a Giants fan. We hate them. But that's the other problem. I'm also a Giants fan by birth. It's like my whole family on my dad's side likes the Giants because they're from New Jersey, and if you're from New Jersey, you have to like the Giants. But I think it's a problem because they're both NFC
Come
East
in.
teams, and hold up, who is this? Hi, Donna.
All right. We can explain.
What's he doing?
Watching some basketball,
Recording a podcast.
watching Nate's team
Crazy
lose.
things.
Mom, do you want to be a part of it?
No.
Okay.
I don't have anything good.
Oh my gosh, Baloo.
I thought you were going to dinner at 6:30, or is it 5:30? Oh no. either. Yeah.
His favorite.
My mom.
Mom. Yeah. Luke, come on.
Yeah.
He's so funny. I see you have your Raven stuff out there.
Yeah.
ready to
It's
go.
a shrine.
It's a shrine to beat the
Did
Chiefs
In Lamar, we trust.
Did you tell him where you were today?
at the film festival.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
It was okay. So it wasn't Emma's video that I did for her wasn't even being shown. She just asked to be like at a table there. So she was at a table there. And so I just sat there for about 3 hours and we watched like one segment of short
Is
films
that.
that
Nate? Okay, Emma, he's been with since kindergarten. No, first grade.
Yeah.
And they've been friends.
and
And I just don't understand.
I don't what
why.
why I go. I don't
Yeah.
know. Well, it's because
I understand friendship, but
she invited like other people and her parents were gonna be there and
Did
like
they?
her
Were they?
no they weren't, and then like one of her other friends that she invited didn't even like respond, and like So,
Felt
So
bad.
you're just a nice guy.
so I was just like,
Does
I
Lauren understand though? That's my
yeah,
thing.
Lauren understands. Lauren understands.
You were basically on a date
No, I was not.
today.
I watched.
Your hair looks good.
My mom cut it today.
She did a nice job.
I watched just 2 hours of short films, and like that's what I'll take. So free. So I'll take
Wait,
it.
was this at Liberty or was this here?
This was here in Richmond.
Oh.
Well, y'all have to give me your opinion.
About what? Oh, her
Ooh.
new cowboy boots.
I like him.
Got cowboy boots.
I like the black
Solid.
shiny little pieces in the
Do
front.
you like them? Do you like them, Nate?
Yeah, sure. I'm sure. Like
You got a
walking-
good
walking
outfit to
around.
go
Where'd you
with
get
it.
him? Where'd you get him at?
Boot Barn.
Ah,
This
that's
is the one in Ashland.
Yeah.
It's a
Have you
solid
ever
place.
been?
I've been a few times.
Oh, okay. It's my very first time. But I fell in love, and I fell in love. Okay, are you single? Yeah, no, you are not. Are you?
I don't know. If I'm
Oh
ready.
no.
Yes, I'm single.
Okay, Zoe at Boot Barn.
Trying to
Listen, I appreciate it, but I work at a barn and hooey.
This is the
Horse
retail
girls,
store.
Western women right now. I can't. I'm sorry.
Well, she
You don't
was
understand.
precious. She was absolutely precious.
Just give her a shot, Michael.
Yeah,
You know, maybe I will. I might have
Let's
to.
go to the Ashland Boot Barn tomorrow, and you can see Zoe.
I'm telling you, she was precious. My daughter and I were there, and I'll if Lauren wasn't in the picture, I'd be going like, okay, this is my Sunday, and I never do that. I'd be like, this is my Sunday. She was so precious.
My mom does that a lot. Is
Does
she,
she
is she
really?
at least 21?
Okay, 20.
Dang it.
I know. No.
Why does it matter for you? Why does that matter for you?
All of a sudden, it matters.
I
From
think
Macau?
she graduated in
Which graduated
What
high
school did she
school
go to?
in
high
20.
school,
in-
Hanover High School.
Mm.
She went to Hanover High School.
Does she go to college?
You know, we didn't get that far. I
Dang
don't know
it.
because I thought she was at Patrick Henry. I said, "Did you go to Patrick Henry?" Thinking you
Yeah.
might have known her.
Mm.
No, she went to Hanover, but you know.
Yeah.
But, okay, just my little tidbit thing.
I wonder if she
Thank
likes
you, Mother.
Godzilla.
Maybe.
But she was precious. And
Thank
I
you,
wanted to see
Mother.
what
I
y'all thought
appreciate
of my cowboy boots.
Those are pretty cool, Mom. I
I
like
like
those.
them, Nate.
Yeah, they're cool.
Okay.
Walking
I think
around
Not
with them.
embarrassed of me.
No, I think they're cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all have fun. Love you.
All right,
Bye.
bye.
Thank you, Donna.
Forgive my Christmas. I didn't do it today again.
Oh, well,
Christmas tree is still up in my room.
We still got
I need
ours
to
up
get
too.
onto it.
I got home at like 3:30 thinking that you were gonna be home, and then you weren't. I was like, that's okay.
I'd keep it up year
We'll
round.
get it done. It'll get done. I
Yeah.
promise.
All right, bye, Mom.
Actually, this is a good topic. Should Christmas trees be left up year round?
We're gonna talk 50 minutes about this.
No. We could go back to the other topic. I don't even know what we were talking about football teams. So Cowboys and Giants. Those are the two teams that I like, and I don't really have a choice because, you know, my dad went to college in Texas, and I got family in Texas. But then I also have so many family members in New Jersey. So it's like, am I gonna be that guy to like two NFC East teams? And I've decided that I will. I am that guy. But then for basketball,
Ah.
don't watch enough of it. But I'm a Bucks fan, so we're doing good at least.
You are.
Name one other player on the Bucks.
I'm not gonna do that right now.
Name one single other player on the Milwaukee Bucks. Michael, say
I'm not gonna listen to you.
No, say
I'm not gonna listen to
Say
you.
Drew Holiday. Say Drew Holiday.
I'm not gonna listen to you, Sheldon.
No, say it. Say Drew
You
Holiday.
set me up for failure. You set me up to
Say it. Say Drew Holiday.
Drew Holiday.
He's on the
He's on the
Celtics.
Celtics.
Got traded.
That's what I just
Idiot.
said. You set me up for failure.
Idiot.
You set me up for failure. You wanted this. You,
All right.
yeah, who's talking now? Put your hand up.
So who? What? Okay. I'm gonna say that we should talk about Star Wars, but that's my thought,
I
I'm down.
think so too.
Let's do it. I could. Go ahead.
dude. It's insane. This has to be stopped.
I think we just. I think we just need to just get into it. then Michael can find his groove. We can all find our groove.
Yeah.
And we could just start off from from the beginning.
Okay.
OG versus prequel.
Just like a normal original trilogy probably. Although Return of the Jedi is not that great.
I disagree, but I think it's complicated because both trilogies have equal amounts of boring parts in them. I remember this. We did a group thing a while back where we watched Empire Strikes Back, and I forgot how boring of a movie it is. It's still got a great plot, and it's got some cool scenes and some cool characters, but it's like there's so much of it that just drags on. But I feel like I'd have to be a prequel guy.
Yeah.
I grew up with the prequel, so I'm biased. I'm biased towards them. But rewatching like the original trilogy, I don't know. The first one, obviously, A New Hope is like going to be a classic, forever will be. And then Empire is always going to be like one of the best sequels of all time. And then Return of the Jedi, I just don't think like lives up to that standard like at all.
I think what is what's that? It's like a framework of a movie. It's called like the hero's journey or something.
Yeah.
And I think that's why A New Hope's so great is because it like fits it so well. Like when we learned about it, we really got to watch it in our English class in high school because it's such like a perfect just hero's journey story. So I think it'll be, and it's also legendary. So it'll be legendary. But I think Empire Strikes Back, the first time you see it, that's when it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, because that's when you really find out like all these like character arcs, stories, whatnot. But I'm with Michael. I think this, after watching it more than 5 times, it's a snooze fest, I think. And it's still like top.
And
What,
I think,
and
and
I-
honestly, I think at least like the lore writing wise, like obviously the original trilogy does a fantastic job with like Sean said, the hero's journey and all that stuff. But like you look at like Anakin Skywalker, his whole fall from grace, like basically like the fallen angel, the fallen savior type character, like the way they did that in the prequels, I feel like it doesn't get enough credit for how good they did it and how good of a character Anakin is in general.
I think the only reason people don't like it is because from 1 to 2, he's grown up like 10 years.
Yeah.
So like you don't see any of that time, and it's funny that the Clone Wars obviously does well connecting the gap between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, like the show and also the movie. But also I think there's like so much more better stories that could be told like between 1 and 2 rather than 2 and 3. But
I disagree. Only
here we go.
okay, but only because between 1 and 2 in the whole like Star Wars universe, there's really only just like basic politics happening. There's not any like major wars going on. There's no like Darth Maul. He was like the first Sith Lord in like 1,000 years or something that popped up. I may be wrong, but I think
That's
the whole era between 2 and 3, there is just so much because like that was one of the biggest wars like in the galaxy at the time, and there's just so much stuff that so many different stories they could tell. Then also with the clones, you had so many people that were basically the exact same person, but so different, such different characters in every way.
Okay, so but everything was made up in the Clone Wars. All of that was made up. So you can make up more things between 1 and 2.
It would have been cool to see Count Dooku go from Qui-Gon's master to
Yeah.
Sith.
We
That
did
would
see
be
that in
interesting.
Tales of the Jedi though.
Well, hardly on like 1 or 2 episodes.
When did
Yeah.
Tales of the Jedi come out?
Like
yeah.
year and a
Yeah,
half?
so I didn't see it because Star Wars is milked now.
Oh, we're gonna get on to that later.
Anything after Book of Boba.
I will never watch Book of Boba.
Book of
Fett
Boba
ever
ruined
again.
one of my favorite characters. I'll never.
All right, I
forgive
think
him for that.
the Book of Boba.
Oh my gosh.
I think it was yesterday. I remember the
It's
word
like-
the daimyo and how he delivered
Oh.
that dialogue so poorly every time he said it,
Yeah,
and I was just like, that was a very, very bad show.
I remember watching this was talking about like the development of the series, and they were talking about how they were just like, well, we've already done the whole Western gunslinger mechanic in the Mandalorian. I'm like, dude, that's literally that's what a bounty hunter is in the Star Wars universe. That's what the Mandalorians were based off, like a lot of them at least were based off of. And then now you're trying to make him a barbarian, this guy who quoted George Lucas saying in the original trilogy they wanted Boba Fett to be like the whole Western gunslinger type, have that trope be his character, and then they change him to a barbarian last minute, and it's like, why did you change a character so drastically? And then I don't know, there were so many other things he did, like this is super minor, but him walking around when he has a bounty on his head without a helmet in a city with people on rooftops with guns, it's like these are just minor things, and it just all added up to ruin one of the greatest characters in this series.
Ooh, I thought I don't know what you're about to say.
Not in
but-
fiction, there's better characters, but
Golly. Go
Always
ahead,
paying
Sean.
attention.
I have like a good Star Wars topic that I would like to hear, but go ahead. I don't know what you're at anymore.
I was gonna make a bad joke. but-
Go ahead, say it.
I was just gonna say you always pay attention to those like minor details, which is I appreciate, you know, 'cause I didn't really put two and two. I didn't put two and two together about him walking up. Go ahead, Nate.
But does that make it like a bad show?
Absolutely.
You know,
You have
everything
every
everything
detail.
else about that show makes it horrible.
Oh yeah, but like, it's all these little things. Like, if you start each
Just
little
keep it
drop
quick,
of each
please.
little drop of water into that cup, and oh my, there were a lot of bad drops going into that cup. Eventually fills that cup to the top until it overflows, and that's what we got
Trust
here.
me, the microphone's picking up your voice. I get it.
I could also argue that the Book of Boba ruined Mandalorian for me as well. I just don't know what it is, but now whenever like a Mandalorian things come out, like isn't he coming to the big screen or something?
Yeah,
Oh, we
that-
can talk
yeah,
about
I
Mando
do.
season
I
3.
could-
That was if we're talking about flops here. Whew.
I still haven't seen that because Book of Boba ruined Star Wars.
It was just awful, like from front to back. You know, it was like
it's boring.
you kind of almost feel bad for Lucasfilm, and especially for George Lucas, because like he was never the best storyteller of all time. And then like Disney buys him out and then takes whatever he had going on with Star Wars and completely flips it on its head and just makes it like awful. Like people were waiting years since Revenge of the Sith to The Force Awakens, and now like people do not want to tune in for the next Star Wars thing, even if like their life depended on it. They just don't.
I will
wanna
say
do it.
we could talk about Andor later, because that's the one show I think they did a very good job on story wise, which a lot of the Star Wars shows up until then didn't really have any depth in them until Andor.
Because he's a character we wanted to know more about.
Yeah, like
I wanted to see what Boba Fett, like what happened. That's why I was so hyped when it was coming out. But then after seeing that, and then The Mandalorian, 3 seasons really. I thought after like
okay, I
after
think
2 seasons it was just milked.
I think after season 2 they had a great setup. Like here's another thing in writing: you want to set expectations for the viewers, and you want to pay off those expectations. You don't want. Okay, I know Nate's got something to say later, but
Good. No, go ahead. Writing expectations. Yep. Come on.
you want to at least there's foreshadowing, and that foreshadowing
quick,
should
keep
lead
it
to
quick.
something. And in Mandalorian season 2, it did not lead to anything, except we got basically the complete opposite. We had Bo-Katan ended up being like the new leader, when like the whole thing before that was like showing how she should never be a leader because she's irresponsible, and that's the only thing she craved. And it's like, I understand that they had some development on her side to like make her the leader, but it was it went so far out of expectations that it wasn't something I could enjoy.
I agree.
Yeah. It's just I wish Mandalorian, and they struck a gold mine with the Mandalorian. It just makes me mad that like they had one thing riding with them was the Mandalorian. It was like from week to week it was a different episode, and it was our first Star Wars show other than the Clone Wars that was live action. And like again, it's crazy that just like now we're looking at it's just like the worst thing that could have happened to it, and was just like over milked, oversaturated, and no one cares about the Mandalorian anymore. When it first came out, it was like the new greatest thing of all time, and now it just sucks. And that's like makes me mad with like the whole Star Wars.
If we want to now, this is like a theory I heard about a while back. Probably not true. But it would make sense for why Mando season 3 was so bad. I heard like people were talking, everything was in the works with like Dave Filoni, and he wanted to make his own sequel trilogy and do all this other stuff and retcon a lot of other things. So that's why Mando season 2 had such an open-ended ending. And then with season 3, it was just like they already decided he's not getting what he wants, and it seemed like he tried to sabotage it on purpose as a way to make a statement. I don't know. That was just kind of like, it's gotten to that point where like that could genuinely be
I
a
don't know.
well-reasoned thing that he probably
You
did.
say Dave Filoni is destroying Star Wars for what reason?
I think it's a whole bargaining thing, I think, behind the scenes, but
I don't know. I think it's Kathleen Kennedy and the higher ups at Lucasfilm and mostly Disney, honestly, like saying, and that because we've seen this with Marvel films, Marvel movies, just like it's quantity over quality, and
also Kathleen Kennedy too. I feel like I don't like her, but I know in the past she has been like she was a producer, right?
mm-hmm.
I know she has produced good movies. I remember it was like Jurassic Park was one of them.
A couple other good like Spielberg stuff.
Yeah, and it's like she wasn't a bad producer at the time, but now it's like it feels like if she really is like the one like pulling all the strings, it seems like she has fallen off so hard, and I really just don't know like how you can fall off that badly.
Sean, what are your thoughts? What do you think?
They're pumping it out way too much.
Mm.
When the balls are dry, stop pumping.
Okay.
I also don't think Dave Filoni is like the savior of Star Wars. I don't subscribe to the idea that he is like sabotaging Star Wars, but I also don't subscribe to the idea that like if he is involved then it's the greatest thing ever, because with this past Ahsoka show, it's awful. Okay, it was the worst show I've ever seen, even though you clowns just love the show so much.
I thought it was average.
Yeah, you guys.
I didn't think it was as bad as Book of Boba. I thought it was, but I didn't think it was like Andor quality either.
I think both of them. I think Book of Boba Fett and Ahsoka are on the same level. The reason I say that is because a lot of things. But at the end of the show, they're like looking into. I don't know if you know this, Sean, that they're looking into expanding the Star Wars universe to a brand new galaxy, like a whole nother universe galaxy where like they can just tell a whole like myriad of stories.
I wonder if they, part of me thinks like we're hard on it just the way that the OGs were super like picky about the prequels, and I wonder if like the new galaxy, like what you just said, I've never heard of that yet, but like all these new things that we hate is like maybe they're seeing in this new generation of Star Wars fans, like this is what they excites them or something like I don't know.
You think like new generation of Star Wars fans want this? Are you saying that?
That's my guy.
I think what
My bad.
Right now I think the new generation of Star Wars fans will like anything Star Wars,
Yeah.
and I think kind of disconnecting like Ahsoka or a new galaxy, like making a new galaxy or whatever they're talking about doing, is kind of a good way to segue into that new.
Just a whole brand new story.
It's a whole way to retcon without retconning.
Because let's be honest, I mean, in high school and early college, Star Wars was like.
Star Wars is it. That was like the thing to do, the thing to see.
I honestly don't think we're ever, because I mean, even with like family members that are in like the younger area that like I would have expected to have like an obsession with Star Wars, they just don't care about it anymore. Like,
well, I mean, kids now are just stupid, but
that's facts.
But at the same
That's
time,
another
it's like
podcast.
BB-8, for example. Like BB-8 was cool, but those kids ate it up. Like BB-8 was the new R2-D2.
Yeah,
They're trying to find like what is quotable, what is memeable, what is like fun and interesting to see from kids. What would sell the most merchandise and toys?
Grogu.
I
think-
Yeah, Baby Yoda, Grogu, and BB-8 did it, and that's what they focused on. So,
and I think, go ahead, Mike.
yeah, go ahead.
I think just like reeling back, I think the biggest problem is trying to do everything in a TV show format. I wish we could just go back to trilogies or just movies. Like, you don't have to do every trilogy around the Skywalker bloodline or whatever. That was the biggest thing with the sequels too, like the whole Rey Skywalker thing at the end, which like you didn't have to tie it back into him. But like there's so much they could do. This whole new galaxy. I know Dave Filoni's got like a new movie he's supposed to be doing, but it's supposed to be like a singular movie. So I don't know what they're gonna do with that. But like having all these extra shows and everything that people have to watch to understand what's going on just doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, I think they should. The movie format's definitely the best because, in my opinion, Rogue One is a top 4 Star Wars movie.
That's facts.
I think it also like plays into the part where it's like it came out when Star Wars was still trying to like be revived almost.
Yeah.
After The Force Awakens, people were like, I think The Force Awakens opened Star Wars up again to be like, oh, what's this new story gonna be?
Absolutely.
But then like everyone also knew that it was just A New Hope remastered, and I don't know, it was in such a weird spot that when Rogue One came out, it was like, oh yeah, like that Darth Vader scene was exactly what we wanted to see in Star Wars, and it happened. And so I think Rogue One is there. And then, unpopular opinion, but Solo wasn't bad.
No,
I could agree.
People
with that.
just don't like. I remember I saw someone saying, "Oh, he doesn't look like Harrison Ford enough." I'm like, yeah, because he's a completely different person.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
plays the part well.
Yeah.
And whenever Harrison Ford says like, yeah, this is who young Han Solo is, I don't. My opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Han Solo himself said it. So, and I think
To
the
be
movie,
fair, Han Solo himself doesn't really care that much about Han Solo himself.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
I don't blame
The
him.
state of Star Wars, yeah, I don't blame him.
I
But
don't blame him.
yeah, and I don't know.
Also, The Force Awakens wasn't a bad. I don't think it was.
It wasn't bad.
It had a lot of potential. I didn't like how they basically copied A New Hope, but like again, they still had a lot of potential after that. But then everything after that just kind of fell. Like what could have been fell so far below the bar that it was just unsalvageable.
It's because I think it's because J.J. Abrams had a plan and a vision for Star Wars. I legitimately just don't think he shared it with anybody else.
Yeah.
Because he wrote out Force Awakens and how J.J. Abrams does with his Star Trek movies and whatnot, his other movies, that he has this like mystery box sort of thing. So he introduces a whole bunch of other things, right? And he thinks at the end of the movie or at the end of this trilogy or at the end of his story, everything's going to be revealed and everything will make sense. So that's what he was setting up for Force Awakens. Who is Poe? Where does he come from? Is Finn going to be a Jedi? Rey and her family, what's going on there, and everything else with Kylo Ren. How do these stories interact and whatnot, and how do they end? And then Rian Johnson, I do not blame Rian Johnson. I've grown up a little thinking that okay, maybe The Last Jedi wasn't the worst thing of all time. I just think it was the worst thing of all time because it was nothing like I expected after already seeing Force Awakens. And then when the last movie came out, Rise of Skywalker, and it was the goofiest thing ever. But I enjoyed it because it was just like dumb fun in space. Like that's just what I thought of all Star Wars. And then we just get another one and everybody hated it. It's like I thought you guys liked this stuff. All the New Hope is dumb fun up in space, and then A Force Awakens comes out, and then it's the same stuff, dumb fun up in space. Sure, The Last Skywalker, everybody hates that, and there's like, oh, we need to go back to dumb fun in space.
I think
so. They do that, and then everybody doesn't like it.
I also think like I don't know. I just think The Force Awakens it's a solid 5 out of 10 movie. It's average at best, but that's not a bad thing as well because it's a trilogy. We all knew it, so it set it up really well. But I also think this is gonna say Finn not being a Jedi was the worst thing Star Wars ever did.
Yeah,
in my opinion. And
They did him so dirty, man.
I think it's crazy because this organization that's so inclusive is like only now known because they basically dangled the idea of a black Jedi hero in front of all these little black kids and then ripped it away from them and made it a white person.
I honestly think I
like that.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was because of China. Because like, have you even seen the posters? What they did to Finn? They literally shrunk him down and put him in the background. When like in the Force Awakens, he was like one of the main characters.
Yeah,
they literally did that. Like
it's some of like the posters for Star Wars, like he was shrunk or like he had a mask on or something going on with his face and his body in the posters and in
that's
advertising.
Crazy.
And so it's just interesting because of course there's a white woman being like the top because like it's still okay by American audiences, but it's also still okay with like Chinese audiences.
Yeah.
So all that's just like interesting. The sequel trilogy will always be such a odd piece of media.
It was fun though
because you look back in the original trilogy and it was climactic, it was cinematic, things happened, people watched it and went down in history. And then Star Wars comes back with a whole nother form of itself. Way more lightsabers. Now there's clones and wars. There's robots running around with a bunch of lightsabers. And then now we get the sequel, which is like, is this like a new thing? What's going on here?
So I think like going on to that too. I honestly think what was it? So it was The Last Jedi, then Rise of Skywalker. I think Rise of Skywalker was worse overall for Star Wars, even though The Last Jedi was actually, they were both, I think, equally bad films, but bringing Palpatine back and all that stuff, that was what brought something that was salvageable with The Last Jedi into something completely unsalvageable, which is the whole problem we have now. And it's why they're trying to do like the whole like Mount Tantus storyline, like the Bad Batch, to try and show like, oh, they cloned Palpatine, they brought him back, all this stuff. And then they just forget that completely undermines Anakin's story and his whole redemption arc and everything at the end when he ended up killing Palpatine and saving the galaxy and all that stuff.
Like the whole I saw this whole premise of like, oh well, there's a chosen one every once in a while, where it's like because balancing the Force, anytime there's like anytime there's like dark side users like Sith Lords, that's a balance. It isn't like equal dark side and light side because the Force isn't supposed to have a Sith Lord, and so when that happens, there's supposed to be a chosen one that comes and puts it into that. I was like, that just doesn't make sense. I think that's a cop out for Rey, and I don't know. And also, it was just predictable that there was only one way the sequel trilogy was gonna go after some point of watching it. You're like, all right, someone's gonna come back. Rey's gonna kill her. Or kill
Yeah.
him.
And
Because J.J. Abrams set up so much, and then everything Last Jedi,
Yeah.
all that was stripped away. So J.J. Abrams thought again, like he was, all right, do I go back on everything that I do, or do I like continue with the story that I have no idea what he's trying to go for? So he just like went back to exactly what he thought. What that was bringing back Palpatine, having a lot of goofy stuff in
something else too is like I think a lot of people I see all this talk online about how like, oh, everybody hated the prequels when they first came out, and like, oh, the sequels, like people are gonna like them like 20 years from now or something like that. It's like I really like, of course I can't see the future, but I really don't think that's gonna be the case, because at least when you had the prequels, the acting there was some issues with the acting there, I'll admit that, but the writing, at least the lore, everything, I thought that was really good. And they also didn't treat their audience like an idiot. Phantom Menace, granted, is probably the only one where you can say they kind of treat us like we weren't that smart, but like the whole politics, everything going on in it, Anakin's fall, that whole duel between him and basically his brother, I think that was done really well, and we never really got anything like that in the sequels, and I feel like that's not going to do well in time.
Yeah, they did think that there's a lot of stuff like, well, people didn't really like the prequels, now people like them because one, they got something worse, and two,
Yeah.
and two, there's like a whole show that like made something of it, like kind of connected the two movies and whatnot. Now I think that what they might do is have a sequel show now, but in the animation of the Clone Wars, and just do the exact same thing. You just connect different movies, show that like plot holes, or maybe things that happen, maybe things that they didn't show in the actual movies and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's like a thing that they're looking at.
So I know they did something kind of similar. This was more directed at like the kid audience. It was like Star Wars Resistance or something like that. It was one of those like, it was done in one of those like very like kiddie like animation style. I remember seeing some like parts of it on YouTube, and like they actually went in depth on like Phasma's character, which she was one of those characters which was like Boba Fett. She had barely any screen time, and like we were like, is she gonna be this really cool character? And then she gets blown up in the end. But like they went through like Phasma's character. There was this other guy, I forget his name, but he had like gold armor similar to Phasma's, and like it was actually kind of interesting. But I don't know. I feel like they've set themselves so much for failure that it's kind of hard to redeem, even with a show like the Clone Wars.
And I think they nostalgia baited a little too much.
Yeah.
Just a little.
Just a little. I mean, when Rey got the Force, the only thing that could go through my mind is her last name's either Kenobi or Palpatine. There was no she's gonna be her own character. I was like, she's gonna be someone's daughter, or granddaughter.
Speaking of getting the Force, what about Sabine?
In Ahsoka.
I'll let you talk about that.
I don't care. It does not matter to me. I don't know who that character was. I never watched Rebels, so it doesn't matter. But
it was just weird because they changed it to where like you had to be born with the Force to now somebody, like, granted they could completely retcon it and say like, oh, maybe she was just born with the Force and didn't know how to use it till now, but like it just seems lazy.
Did she basically earn the Force?
Basically, there's one scene at the end of Ahsoka where they're trying to save I forget dude who looks like Moses, basically. They're trying to save him, and like, Ezra. They're trying to force him onto a Star Destroyer, and like Ezra's like, I can't get in there, I need help. So then Sabine like magically musters up the courage to use the Force, send this guy flying, which like when we saw Luke first use the Force, it was like to barely pull a lightsaber that was like the size of a phone to his hand. And now we have Sabine out of nowhere throwing a whole human into a Star Destroyer like 100 feet away. I don't know. It just didn't sit right with me, and it felt kind of lazy on the writing portion.
They played along that like line of like, remember when Fenn's character got reduced to Rey?
Yeah. Just yelling Rey.
I saw somewhere like the whole point of him yelling there was he wanted to like say he thinks he had the Force or something, and it was like confirmed that Kathleen Kennedy was like, well, it's supposed to be that everyone has the Force. And I'm just like,
well, I think
everybody's special.
So I think the idea, and this brings back like some like fan theories or whatever, that the midichlorians with Qui-Gon Jinn. I have always thought that like people, that's a dumb way to like quantify the Force, and I always thought that that's how the character of Qui-Gon Jinn quantified the Force, not everybody else. I felt like that was his own theory. So when you take in account that like every living, breathing thing has the Force, and the Force is all around you, then yeah, it's not that much of a stretch to think, okay, then yeah, I have the Force. Anybody like Chewbacca could have the Force if he's a living, breathing thing, and if he has enough midichlorian accounts, then it doesn't matter. Why shouldn't he be have the Force?
I think they did. Who was the blind guy in Rogue One? I think they did that like aspect of the Force being around and like accessible by everybody really well in him. I forget his name, of course, but like he obviously he wasn't going around using the Force to like move things, but it was basically just him like trusting in the Force, and it would basically protect him. I just think it's weird when you have somebody pulling off like full on Jedi moves and doing all this stuff just out of nowhere after basically not having the Force her entire life. I thought that was I just thought it was kind of rushed and
They don't have
Weird.
a history of thinking things
Yeah.
through.
yeah.
I don't
Like,
think Star Wars has ever had a
no.
history of thinking things.
But
through.
also,
I also
but that
wanted
was
to
also
think
in the
about that.
past. Like you talked about how like Star Wars used to be like very like goofy and stuff, which like that was cool like growing up. But then like you had the prequels, and then you had basically this whole franchise that used to be it didn't they didn't expect it to go where it went, and now like they could actually take it somewhere. And I don't think we should still be going with the ridiculously goofy storytelling. It's kind of like what Marvel did, where Marvel kind of went in a reverse route, but like they started going down the whole goofy route and everything, and then it lost a lot of viewers.
Oh gosh, I just saw that shot and that was terrible. I was gonna say something. I was gonna say something too.
Golly, that we could have had that one
yeah,
too.
what I was gonna say is like I think now that we're
Shoot that
older-
J up, bang! That's what I thought.
I thought
Oh my
I think now that we're older, more mature, kind of, we can agree that like when you do take a step back, no matter how many TV shows connect plot holes,
Yeah,
how good the prequels may have been for lore, how good the original series was, I think when we take a step back and just look at the grand scheme of Star Wars, it's not nearly as well put together as
no,
like early stage Marvel to like Endgame basically, and then also
Yeah.
like I mean Lord of the Rings, just watching Lord of the Rings, even The Hobbit I think is put better than Star Wars is. It's just I don't know.
it's
like,
like
I feel bad.
storylines and things. of
Yeah,
that nature.
it's Star Wars has been everywhere for its whole existence, and I mean how well put together do you think like spaceships and lightsabers and all that's going to be? But at the same time, it's like this isn't anything new. Like I mean,
do
look
wonder
at the
because like it
prequels.
is funny because there is like a correlation, like the decline of Marvel also coinciding with the decline of Star Wars, but they're also both owned by Disney. So I don't know, but like I do feel looking back at like earlier Marvel movies like Thor: The Dark World, I remember how much crap I gave that movie, and then it's like comparing it to Marvel movies nowadays, it's like, dude, give that movie an Oscar. Like that thing compared to what we have nowadays, it was a good
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, that's like the whole idea of Star Wars. I do, if we want to have some closing thoughts about Star Wars, I do have a little game that we can play.
Go ahead.
a little idea. So I've always thought about if I could write a Star Wars movie, what would I say? What would I do? What would I do with the different characters? What era would I set it in? Would I even write a story or write a movie? Could I write a TV show? What kind of thoughts would you guys have about having the ability? You were given Dave Filoni's job and you said, okay, you can do whatever you want as long as it's within the realm of Star Wars, and it's like you know within whatever the characters that we have and the stories, whatever.
Just
You
make
do
the
whatever.
characters like at least somewhat cool. Like
No.
And I know
like
that's, like-
specifically, what would you
I-
do?
okay, that's
to start.
Go ahead, Michael.
Go ahead, Michael. We know.
Get
I
it
know
out
you
the way.
have a bunch of ideas for.
Give us one. Give us one.
Just give us.
So we
give
know
us
how
one and
Disney
give us
always
one.
wants to do like the whole like have that like diversity of characters, but yet all these characters that are supposed to be diverse all end up being incredibly shallow. I want to have like a bunch of different characters that all come from completely different like factions, backgrounds. Like you look at like the Old Republic games, and I remember seeing it. It was like the bounty hunter guy. You had this Jedi, then the Master, and it's like you could technically reuse some of these tropes and it be completely different and still end up good. So I think just having more people from like different factions and actually like really going with that.
You don't have a
would help.
specific story.
I don't have I'm not gonna write a whole story for you right now. I don't know
Okay.
where we could go.
alright,
But
I mean, I can't tell you how many times laying awake at night thinking, man,
Oh,
if
hold on.
I had the ability to write a Star Wars story.
in my notes, I think I did write a Star Wars script a while back.
Okay.
But this
yeah.
was for our friend. This was like for our friend group and to cast us.
I don't want to move on to somebody else and then go back to Michael. So We'll wait for little Mike.
Oh, okay. So this was back when I was doing my cinema
Give us
minor.
one, your best one. I see a lot of.
This is a script that I wrote for like a Star Wars short film, and it was kind of after I watched Stranger Things, which apparently Disney's also doing something like kind of similar. It's like with Rebel Crew or something like that.
Just tell us.
It was basically to focus on this like empire, this base on a moon with the Empire, whatever, and they were basically doing experiments. And I know they had like the Zillo Beast in the Clone Wars, and they were trying to clone that thing. And this was basically just going to go through like the cloning experiments of what the Empire was doing. And it was like basically some prisoners that were there, and they were trying to escape. And as they're escaping, they're coming through all these horrors and all these other things that the Empire created. And it would almost be like harkening back to like the horrors of like concentration camps, that kind of stuff. And like Mandela, the Angel of Death or whatever, the stuff that he was doing to like those people, and like seeing that in person and seeing like the horrors of the Empire versus just them blowing up planets and us not having really any connection to the people that are on there. So I think that was kind of the premise for like the script I wrote a while back, with something like kind of Stranger Things-esque, or like kind of World War II stuck in a camp trying to escape, something like that. I think is a good story to explore.
Interesting. What about you, Sean? What do we have to tell us about it?
I've always thought about the Old Republic, wars, multiple lightsabers in a battle, things like that. That's fun.
Yep.
But that's the easy route.
That is.
I also thought about Qui-Gon Jinn. I truly believe he's the most perfect Jedi ever. I think a story about him would be cool, but that's another easy route. So something fun. I don't need a trilogy. I don't need a TV show. I don't need no spin-offs. Don't give me none of that. Have you guys ever seen Predator?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
I'm not talking about the mirror, Michael.
You mean the Fortnite skin?
Okay.
I'm talking about the movie where there's like 11 dudes and dudettes stranded in this jungle area with something and other things hunting them.
That kind of sounds like my idea of the prison almost.
Yeah, except this isn't Holocaust. This is nature, Michael.
This is real life.
Literally just something about... We see a lot of the different planets. I want to see a movie that deals with the nature and the beasts and all the monsters in Skyrim, and like really showcases all... Star Wars.
Ewok Hunt from Battlefront 2.
He's talking.
Ewok.
Imagine that.
Ewoks could be a part of it, Michael. Whatever your imagination. But just a group of people in the Star Wars, not Skyrim, excuse me. Star Wars universe who are basically stranded, have to find their way out of this jungle, planet, you name it, sure, whatever. And they have to deal with all the beasts, monsters, you name it, about Star Wars, just so we could see what it looks like. No Jedis, only blasters. No non-force users, things of that nature. I think that would be a fun movie that people would want to go and see.
You could just say Jedi, not Jedis. It's
so like a whole movie or like a short story or
it'd be a movie. I think
like
a Predator, like kind of the baseline of what the Predator is, just put it in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
I want to see what monsters there are. I want it to be kind of scary.
It's funny.
Like PG-13 type of movie.
They could copy so many, like, I say copy, like be inspired by so many genres, like Godzilla movies, literally just bring in the Zillo Beast and have it like attack a city. We already kind of saw that in Clone Wars, but like imagine a movie like that where like they already talked about how they clone the Zillo Beast again. Imagine it gets out and like you have a whole Godzilla type incident happening on like Coruscant or another planet. That'd be so cool. But no, you go on. You say something.
No, because whatever I say, Michael's gonna say, no, actually I would do it better.
All right,
No,
Michael.
actually,
No. I put my faith in you this time.
We're
I trust you.
gonna let Nate talk. No interjections. If something scratches your brain, just say.
I'm just gonna go punch a pillow or something.
I don't have that grand of an idea, but I've always thought doubling down on the idea that the Jedi are actually the bad guys in the Star Wars universe, at least in the prequel stories. I really like the idea of, I think between 1 and 2 or something along those lines, before we know that the Jedi are kind of corrupt, at least the Jedi High Council, that they get into like a jam. They get into like a little goofy little place where maybe in Hutt's territory or something along those lines, where they cannot legally be there or whatever. You can make up some law in the story. But so they have that sort of like idea and like sort of like conflict going on. What if you said that like the Jedi hire a bounty hunter to go and find out and do something in that territory, in that area, in that time, because they legally can't. So it just shows that like maybe even have it at the beginning of the Jedi Council. Like even at the beginning, they were like still stretching and moving the boundaries, stretching the rules, trying to find out how they can manipulate and do better, well, quote unquote, do better in their different circumstances. I've always really thought the idea of like the Jedi hiring a bounty hunter to do their bidding is just like an interesting concept, and maybe not any specific bounty hunter or whatever, but just like a bounty hunter maybe make up a new one that like maybe looks at the Jedi a little bit differently, maybe like something along those lines. But it's not like and deal with like a lot of underground stuff in the Star Wars universe and stuff like that. But that was like kind of my idea for a Star Wars story. Maybe a movie. I would really like that idea of a movie, but probably a TV show.
A little bit of nuance getting brought into here.
What do you guys think?
I think that'd be cool because, like I said, I think Qui-Gon Jinn was the perfect Jedi because he had his skepticisms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
he was definitely the best Jedi, best Star Wars character, I think,
Yeah.
other than a Han Solo. But
I didn't really like Han Solo's character, to be honest.
that's crazy.
that's crazy. How do you say that?
Okay, I'd have to
He'd have to reevaluate.
I might have to change my opinion if I rewatch it and decide he's actually a good character.
How is he a bad character? Just give us 3 points.
Actually, I don't think he's like that
Oh.
bad. I just personally thought he was annoying. Like,
Why?
Because he's fun.
are you gonna make me explain myself?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have Michael say this
Okay.
and we'll end the episode. I like where we.
No, I think we could keep going a little bit longer. But
okay, yeah.
because I feel
Whatever
like
Michael wants, whatever Michael and Sean want, that's what we'll do. That sounds good to me.
I will take it back. I think thinking about it a little more, I think Han Solo is I think he's an interesting character.
What do you have to say about Han Solo?
Okay.
I don't know. This was just one of my like thing. Like I just remember watching it like as a kid. I was like, why this guy's being kind of like annoying right now. I don't know. Like he was funny, but like this dude's getting on my nerves.
He's a dick.
Yeah.
I think that's probably it.
Also, why'd they make him and like Leia get divorced? Like,
Get
but it does
divorced?
make sense though. It does make
Galactic
sense.
Divorce.
Yeah, because they got divorced or something. They were like fighting over Kylo.
Yeah, I mean he didn't turn out too well.
Yeah, my kid ended up like that.
That was
I'd be
another
kinda pissed.
thing. The sequels completely destroyed Luke Skywalker,
Oh.
Yeah,
who was
destroyed.
supposed to be stronger than Anakin, but after seeing the
It was
sequels-
weird that he tried to kill his nephew when like he literally was willing to die to save his father.
who was arguably like
Space Hitler.
Galactic Hitler.
I
yeah.
don't think that this character of Luke Skywalker, in retrospect, was necessarily ruined. I think he was just expanded to a point where people didn't recognize him. The reason I say that is because Luke had always had a dark side to him, always had like an odd, eerie point of view, because he starts the story off like a fun little farmer boy, and then molds into in the Return of the Jedi. When the first time we see him, he's choking Gamorrean guards and wearing all black, showing that like he's going through some odd changes. And then at the end of Return of the Jedi, where he's like smacking on Darth Vader, and he sees that the Emperor is enjoying what he's doing, that's when he figures out, okay, maybe like this is pretty bad. But we're gonna finish this up with the Han Solo and Luke Skywalker talk, and hopefully I didn't cut out or been cut out.
Is it Lauren?
You better decline that.
All right, we're gonna
And
finish. We're gonna
so
finish this up.
basically,
I'm right, you're wrong. Anyways, Luke Skywalker has always had that edge to him, and then in the Last Jedi, where it shows that he was going to kill his nephew because he saw some darkness in him, that is not necessarily not Luke's character. That just seems a little bit far-fetched for his character, and it's also not his character to, I don't know, sit on an island for years and like waste away at the end of Force Awakens. But I remember nobody talking about that. I remember like, oh, why is Luke Skywalker there? Well, maybe it's because his character had changed, it has evolved, and has expanded, and it just got to a point where people did not recognize him. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's actually a very interesting thing. One of the most historic, cinematic, interesting, recognizable characters of all time, at least in movies, at least fictional character in movies, turned into something that modern day audiences did not understand. And I think that's fairly interesting.
I can agree with your like premise on that because like I know he's always had like that side of him, but I think the very end of Return of the Jedi when like the Empire's looking at him and like laughing because he's basically doing what he wants him to do, that was like when that change should have been like official. And understand me, like people change, but people still have their struggles and all that stuff still in them. But like I just think him going to like actually wanting to like igniting his lightsaber, wanting to kill his nephew just because of basically a bad dream, I thought that was just terrible writing, and I don't think there's many redeeming qualities from it. I can agree though with him like wanting to stay on the island and all that. Like I think that makes sense, but I just think like he's always been still like very optimistic, and we kind of just lost that in the sequel trilogy. And even Mark Hamill himself said he didn't like what they did with his character. So I don't know. I think there's just so much stuff that could have been done better for him, and I think even Legends Luke was a better alternative to what we got.
I don't care about Legends. It's not real. It's just people made up.
Legends was.
Legends is like stuff. When Legends is when like a character goes into what's it called? Free use or whatever.
Yeah.
And somebody can just do whatever they want with it. That's exactly what Legends is.
You let a toddler do the right, and they'll do a better job than what we got.
Okay. Well, that's been our Star Wars podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed talking to us and about us doing Star Wars. It's been fun. What do you think, Sean?
I think Anakin Skywalker clears Luke Skywalker.
Okay.
Easy.
I think honestly, after this like very hostile podcast, I think we should all say something really good about each other before we end it.
Absolutely not. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching, having fun with us, talking about Star Wars on the GR8 podcast. Hit that link in the bio and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You guys should honestly subscribe to my Patreon.
Patreon?
I have a Patreon.
Why do you say GR8 and not great? That's what it stands for. That's literally what it means.
Okay. The Patreon is $1 a month, and you guys do not support me.
I don't
What
have that money.
is
I
it?
do
I
not
don't
have
know
that money.
It's $12 a year.
Remember when you would start asking for handouts to go to New York, and then you never went to New York until like a year later?
I think I gave that money back, but go ahead. You don't want to support your
You're
friend.
like
But I don't
basically-
want to pay, and then I see like things I don't want.
Yeah, but like you get videos a day early. You get
What if you
podcast
become,
episodes
like-
a day early.
What if you become like a terrorist? Like I don't want to be responsible.
All right. Yep. I see you guys in the next one. Bye.